Hello, this is DanO, and I'm here again with my partner, co-host, friend, Toddy Walker. And
What's
we're
up,
here.
DanO?
What's happening, man?
All
And we're
right.
here. We're here to talk about music and particularly good music. That's a big expanse of territory to try and cover. So we're trying to just handle it bite at a time.
That's
Last
right.
week we had a guest host again, and Trace Cooper was on with us, and we explored things like the Hall of Fame and the nominations for this year's inductees into the Hall of Fame. And my gosh, talk about roaming room. We had a lot of opportunities to discuss and debate rights and wrongs there. This week, we're going to talk about our normal topics of good music, but also new music moment. And a special topic tonight is going to be the women of rock and roll. And
Absolutely.
It's funny, Toddy, when I downloaded the transcript of the last episode, it calls out a set of these are the really nice comments that I gathered, and one of them was, there ain't much sexier than a woman singing rock and roll. One of us said that last week. I don't know which one of
I,
us.
and whoever threw that out there, I cannot disagree.
I'm with you, man. So let's see. A couple of quick topics. I mentioned last week or last episode, and just in case you didn't catch that one of my proudest moments since retiring has been to use my chatbot to create this chart. It's a chronology of the golden era, stretching from 68 to 83 of top 20 albums based on Billboard, over those years. And it's something that it's really eye-opening. We talk about that time a lot, that period a lot, that era a lot. But when you really start looking at the details of who was in that top 20 and how long were they in there for, it's amazing. So anyway, that's out there. We'll talk more about it in another episode. Another thing that I'll come back to in a few minutes when I'm going to talk some of the new music moment tonight.
Nice.
But when we come back to that, I want to show some of how I got to where I got with the band that I'm going to talk about tonight. So, special topic for tonight, and this is going to be Dottie's baby, but I'm going to have a few things to throw in. But the women of rock and roll, and I gotta say, Dottie, just going in, there ain't much sexier than a woman singing rock and roll.
Hell no.
Some of my favorite songs feature women singing lead vocals or singing harmony on those records, those songs. It's just somewhere in there. There's an energy. There's a thing that just connects with Dano and says, "Wow, I'm gonna grab you by the
Say it.
heart
Say
and
it.
I'm gonna drag you where I want you to go." So anyway, Toddy, before I take up more time, go ahead.
Well, and where did it begin? I think we always point to that starting point was Janis Joplin. But was it
Yep.
really? I mean, let's go back to well before her into the 50s, and you had two. Big Mama Thornton, who is from actually Troy, Alabama. You know,
What? Wait, what?
Big Mama Thornton. She
She's
was
from
the
Troy?
original. She's from Troy, Pike County,
Who
and
knew?
original singer of Hound Dog. I think her and sister Rosetta Tharpe, who was actually a gospel singer but could play the living shit out of a guitar.
There you go.
And so she bridged that gap from
Mm-hmm.
gospel into rock, and those two, for me,
Mm-hmm.
is probably where that female rock singer kind of began.
Yeah.
Now, if they started it, Janis was the beacon. I mean, she took it to another level because at that point it became more than just the singing; it was an attitude.
Yeah. That was a great way of saying it, Toddy. Is took it to another level. I mean,
Yep.
good gosh, it was there, and she stepped into it and raised the bar.
And passion. That's the
Mm-hmm.
one thing I think that separated her from probably everybody else. I always go back to watch this video once, and it was a concert, I think at Monterey or somewhere like that, and this was Janis's first public appearance, and she just blisters through it. And sitting out in the audience was Mama Cass of the Mamas and Papas.
Right.
and just timing was everything. But they kind of pan the camera and it goes past Mama Cass. She looks at whoever she's sitting there with and just mouths the words, "Holy fucking shit!" You know, and I think at that
I know that
point,
feeling.
it was a game changer because prior to that was the Mamas and the Papas,
Mm-hmm.
Joni Mitchell. Now, don't get me wrong, they're all great in their own right.
But go ahead.
But then this, well, how can I say, socially awkward chick from Port Arthur, Texas, blazed onto the scene, and it was never the same after that.
Yeah.
And it opened doors for women. She did.
Yes, but then, okay, so you talked about maybe 3 different really types of female rock singers. I'm using a broad term there, I realize. Painting with a broad brush. You know, when you and I have talked about this topic in the past, I've mentioned to you, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I think the point is applicable even now. And that is, I almost have to put this into categories when I think about it. And if somebody asked me, rank these existential women in their talent and their ability to sing rock and roll music, I don't know that I can do that because you got the Karen Carpenters and then you got the folks that you've just talked about. I don't know how to compare those apples to apples.
As singers, they're both great, but I don't know if I would put Karen Carpenter in the rock singer category.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Like that.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. If you tell me what female singer do you love, Karen Carpenter is going to come to. She's going to be near to the top of my list. But is she rock? I don't know. Is she good music? Hell yeah. So there's where my categorization kind of comes in.
Sure.
It's just the notion that whether I'm trying to compare an incredible soul singer to someone like Taylor Momsen, Pretty Reckless.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think both of those fall under how the lineage to rock and roll. I know the Pretty Reckless does. But my point is, man, you know, how do you handicap those two in terms of, was one better than the other? Or were they just different and better in different ways?
I'm going to go with B. Was Karen Carpenter a better vocalist than Janis Joplin? Yeah. She probably could have, more octaves and all of those things that actually make you a great vocalist.
Yeah.
But was she a better rock star? Hell no.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying is, how do you make up or handicap between the two, or do you?
You don't.
Yeah. This is the fastest funny car, and this is the fastest NASCAR. 2 different things.
And there can be greatness along different spectrums.
Right.
Like I said, I don't think anybody would ever doubt either one of them's place is in that pantheon of are they great?
Right.
Absolutely. But in 2 different mechanisms. Right? Case in point is, let me think about this for a minute. Is Steve Perry of Journey a better vocalist?
Is he a female singer?
Than Tom Petty?
See, this same kind of comparison. Kind of comparison, yep. And that's what I'm drawing on.
There we go.
So there's goodness across the spectrum. I think that's what we're establishing. So who else would you throw out there as far as the women that? And I'm gonna lead the witness here a little bit, because it wasn't long ago that you sent me a text like you do and said, "And Wilson, my damn, that woman can sing."
Oh yeah. For me, she's at the top of the heap. When first heard Heart and Crazy on You came on, there was a new band in town. And they were not going to take a back seat to any male-driven band.
Exactly.
And
They broke some barriers.
Yeah, and then plus, I had the Little Queen album, and that album cover of just Ann and Nancy on it, I always thought was so cool. And hey, took some thumbtack, pinned it up on the wall in my room. It was like I said, there was a new game in town at that point. And the fact they were influenced by Zeppelin made them even
But they were fighting, Toddy, and that's the thing that I love about them is they were fighting at a point where that kind of female rock and roll band didn't really exist. You had Janis Joplin, singers that did cool rock and roll stuff, but they were in a place that the industry really had not carved out a spot for. And they pushed and they pushed and they pushed, and they said, by God, we're here and we're going to stay here.
Yeah, and made no apologies, did not kiss anybody's ass to get, say where they were going. They done it their way, and with a big old, and you got to admire them for that. Because really the only other female band, rock band that I can think of from that era was probably the Runaways.
Yeah.
Which, collectively, they were okay. I mean, they had Cherry Bomb, I think, was probably their. But now you had Joan Jett was in that band. Lita Ford was in that band.
And Joan Jett's a story of her own. Let me tell you, if you ever get a chance to watch a documentary around Joan Jett, do it.
I don't recall what and there was one, she played bass, who wound up in, always love that 6 degrees of separation that you find in bands. And I think her name was Mickey, but she wound up being the bass player in the Bangles that came around, about 10 years later?
Yeah.
But like I said, the Heart and the Runaways were really in that mid-'70s time frame.
Mm-hmm.
They may have been others, but I don't know who they were.
I think you're right. We may be missing one, but then you get not too far down the road, and then you get into bands like the Go-Go's, which, I'll admit, there is some talent there. I think that there was a lot of opportunity in the form of, hey, here's some material, and if you gals will go out and play this stuff and look really cool playing it, you're going to be okay. You're probably going to be better than okay. I just think there was a little bit of something more than pure talent at play there. That's my opinion.
Oh, sure.
But then, so Toddy, before, and I know, let's see, we're 15, we're doing okay on time. The one I've got to throw out, Beth Hart. My damn.
Yeah.
This woman, she happens to play a keyboard, which clearly drives into my heart, but she is a force of nature. I actually had the opportunity to see her live in Asheville a couple of years ago. And as I was posting short videos, one of the things that I was convicted of and had to say was, this woman is not of this earth.
I think there's some similarities between her and Janis in that
Yeah.
they're both powerhouse singers.
Yeah.
They both sing with
Passion.
I'll just call it a gut-wrenching passion.
Yeah.
And for those out there that may have never heard her, they need to go put on her and Joe Bonamassa cover the Etta James, I'd Rather Go Blind.
Yeah.
It's going to last about 10 minutes, but it is well worth that 600 seconds of your life to sit down and listen to.
After that time, you're going to be better in so many ways than you were before that time. I promise you. And you may not even realize it at the moment, but you will later.
It's like I said, those that are rooted in the blues, they sing with a distinct style. And maybe that goes back to what you were saying earlier with Karen Carpenter. She wasn't rooted as a blues singer.
No, not at all.
And so maybe there's that difference you were talking about.
Different categories.
Beth Hart, nice pull. Now, right. One from the 60s that I failed to mention. I said I'm going to have to back
Don't
up.
fail, Toddy. Come on, man. You still got time.
Grace Slick from Jefferson
Starship.
Airplane.
Yeah, you're better than Starship. So, yeah, no doubt. And they're, I don't know.
And she brought, it was attitude. I think that's where this whole rock, whether it's, in this case, we're talking the women of rock, it's more than just the voice. It's the attitude that they brought to their performances that pretty much said, like we said earlier, here we are. If you like us, fine. If you don't, we're going to do what we do. And you got to love that about them.
Yeah, and, we've talked about a lot of lead female rock singers or singers, and I mentioned at the intro of this that there are also those that are those background singers, but without them, they're not background. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Can you think that record would not have been the same without her?
No, oh, absolutely not.
So,
yeah, and then we could also use that same logic to Honkettes with Leonard Skinner. What they brought to the table was something that basically separated Skinner from every other band that was doing Southern rock at the time.
Yeah, and the bands, the artists that really had the wherewithal to recognize the importance. I don't just need a lead guitar, I need a bass guitar. There's a piece of the music that's not being executed that I hear it in my head, I'm not hearing it out of the speakers. And it comes from, in a lot of cases, those background vocals and the female contributions that we're talking about. Not that they're any less important. They're incredibly important. They make the music at that moment what it is. But I'm saying that, God, if you look at Leonard Skinner, they recognized the importance of having those ladies sing.
And you brought up Pink Floyd, with Claire Torrey, but the Rolling Stones, they also with Mary Clayton, on Give Me Shelter.
Right. Nice. Yeah.
Without her on that song, it would not have been what it ultimately came to be.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to give credit where it's due, man.
Yeah.
And once again, no offense to the great Karen Carpenter, but she could not have brought to Give Me Shelter what Mary Clayton did.
No.
See, and I think that's where we got with a while ago.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Is you're really trying to compare apples and oranges, and
Sure.
They both taste really good, but one's one thing and one's another, and I don't know how you compare them one to one, if you can.
What has been cool is, so we say it began with the two powerhouses from the blues in the late 50s, and then that evolved into Janis and Grace Slick. Well, even prior to that, maybe Joni Mitchell, and she might fit more into the category of, Karen Carpenter. I don't think Joni Mitchell was a rock singer, more folk artist. Great in her own right.
Female singer-songwriter.
But there's this evolution, So there's Janis and Grace Slick, and then like we touched on Hart, and then the Runaways and all of that great talent that was in that band. So now you're getting pretty close to 1980. There was a chick that exploded on the scene, I'm going to say probably in 1980, that was all of maybe 5'1", Pat Benatar, and could absolutely crush it.
A little package of dynamite, man.
Yeah, great description. And once again, she might have been challenged height-wise, maybe that might be the best way to put it, but when she walked on stage, there was swagger, there was, I'm going to do what I do, get out of my damn way. And she was also paired up with one hell of a guitar player, but there
was that. But then, Dottie, as you were asking that question, and I was considering the small set of answers that were available, one that crossed my mind was the chick that sang with, and I hope I'm not offending anybody with my use of the word chick.
No, this is our show.
It's just, my way of talking about people that I have a lot of respect for. And I don't mean anything negative by it, but I just thought about, shit, now I'm going to be canceled. Nobody wants to be canceled. Prince had a wonderful young lady who participated with him in his band and then ultimately left the band and became her own individual talent, I'll call her. And I know I'm hitting you cold here, man, but somebody out there knows who I'm talking about. And she was, again, that package of dynamite, man. Prince he wasn't a large man by any means, and she was a little bit smaller than him. So I don't know what that makes her other than that package of dynamite. But, hey, she was amazing, and I'll try to add it to the comments or something. We have a chance to Google it. But, man. All right, Dottie, anything else you want to bring up on the women?
Yeah, and we still got this evolution going on, and see, by the time we get to the 80s, you've got other types of music coming on the scene: punk rock,
Yeah.
new wave, Debbie Harry,
Oh,
in Blondie. You she was,
out eating cars and eating bars.
yeah, and what a absolute enigma of a little band she was in. Yeah, I mean, the Titus High was a reggae song. Rapture was a rap song. Heart of Glass was disco. They pretty much covered every freaking genre, and they did it well. And why? Because of Debbie Harry.
Like about one of the more under, in my opinion, bands that have existed in the last 30 years. They it's like when I come to you and talk about 10cc and Deceptive Bends, and I say, man, after listening to this for 50 years, I hear something more now. It's the same with Blondie and Deborah Harry, and it just, I guess I appreciate it more now. I see it more now for what it really was, and what it really was some good shit.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it came at such a, can I put it, a time in our lives where there was just this connection. Now, once again, it doesn't hurt when you got a really nice looking, as you said, chick singing for you. That tends to pique particularly a early, late teens, early, music fans' interest. I could say that.
Yeah.
But even though it might pique your interest, the talent's what holds you. Yeah. And they gotta have that. But so you're seeing, and then leaving one out that I do think probably all of those from, say, I'm going to say the mid-'70s on probably have to owe some tip of the cap to, and that is Patti Smith.
Ooh. Man, I tried to think about that one earlier and then failed.
She was the one thing all of these have in common is they were kind of, like I said, I'll use that word enigma again. They were unique in what they brought to the table.
They were epic, man. Come on, they were epic.
And
that word that just kills me.
And the last one I'll point to, and then I'll let you run with it from there, but is Chrissie Hynde with the Pretenders. Probably doesn't get maybe the credit she's due, but she was probably, now we're kind of getting past that point where you had female rock singers that were really front and center. They began to probably really at the close of the golden era kind of begin to slip more into maybe some kind of obscurity because they weren't pop radio friendly at all.
Boy, whoa, Toddy, bing! That was a great description, man. Radio friendly.
And Lita Ford, I know she did a duet with Ozzy in what, 87, give or take. That went to top 5 on the charts, but Ozzy gets most of the credit. It was Ozzy's song. Ozzy with top 5, and Lita Ford, to me, and no offense to the Wizard, because he was an absolute one of a kind. But without Lita Ford on that record, it does not do near as well as it did. The girl could play, and she could sing. So that that kind of condenses that women of rock into this golden era that you and I keep going back to. All of those fell pretty much within that 15-year time frame that we hammer on week after week.
Yeah. And every time I pick up my iPad, man, I see another announcement about another group of bands that are going on tour that had their heyday 50 years ago.
Right.
It's just an amazing time right now, musically, because there's obviously a hunger out there. And I keep talking about this point that if there wasn't that hunger, if people didn't really care about the music that we talk about as a part of that golden era, this wouldn't be happening. But clearly it is. And so that hunger is obvious. And then, what I wonder though, and this is the sad part for me, is we have we're grounded, in terms of we experienced that music when it was happening. It was part of our growing up, But, now a kid that's born in 1993, where do they go? Hold on, back up. I need to clarify this because this is what just hit me like a bolt of lightning the other day. Do you remember Casey Kasem?
40.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a staple of your Sunday night.
Casey Kasem, you're exactly right, was the staple of a Sunday night for a guy like me. And maybe next episode I'll have it ready. I'll show you the little radio that I listened to Casey Kasem on that I still have today. But that was, you had a stick of truth, your truth stick, the thing that you measured everything else against. And as Casey went through those top 40 songs, you knew where all the attention was, where the talent was, what the things that appealed to you were, and how they were relating to other things in that set of 40 songs. Today, Toddy, where do the kids that were born in 1993 go to find that truth stick?
Yeah, I don't guess they do. That's in some ways sad because here's what else that
really sad.
Casey Kasem's top 40 done, the backstories to songs,
right,
and the bands. It was more than just playing 40 songs back to back from one.
Here's number 39. Here's number 38. Here's number 37.
Right. There was always this backstory, maybe how the song came together, or something to do with the band.
Right.
And that's where we got a lot of this. Whether if you want to call it knowledge that we have now, that's where a lot of it comes from.
It did because there was no internet. The Dothan Eagle wasn't going to cover the status of rock and roll as we know it today. So that's where
WDIG damn sure tried.
But yeah, I mean, Casey Kasem, when I look back, like I said, it hit me like a bolt of lightning, Todd. Just the wow, what's missing? And it's that Casey Kasem thing. If I go to Apple Music tonight and I go to the top charts, I'm going to see something from about 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to see as number 2 something by ELO. Yeah. And then number 3 is going to be the Beatles, and number 4 is going to be Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. And I'm like, wait a minute, where did we go in between all of those? Where do you go for that truth stick? And I don't know. You throw on Spotify and hope?
Yeah, I don't think you do. That avenue for information is gone. And so is like liner notes in albums. It's just gone. This, like I said, when we were back in this golden era, and these like women of rock, and you know what? I just thought of one that probably ought to have our asses kicked for not mentioning Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks and Christine McVie.
Oh, damn.
I guess, sidetracked with, but at least I did think of it before we signed out.
Pledge my shame as soon as we sign off, man. She's the one I didn't even talk to you about, but you're right. Yeah. And in fact, if you really wanted to circle around for just a quick second, we've talked about Stevie Nicks as a Hall of Fame potential candidate versus Stevie Nicks as a member of Fleetwood Mac. And they're different answers, maybe, I don't know. But she is damn sure at the table for the women of rock that you want to talk about.
Probably of all of them, her.
The best looking one?
Oh, no. Once again, that's one of those arguable points. But what Stevie Nicks did as a songwriter, she was a damn poet. And her lyrics, I think, reflected that.
But
she also had that attitude, but it was maybe a little more subdued than Ann Wilson or Janis Joplin. Stevie had an air of, almost mystery about her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good term.
And so, but once again, we said this a while ago, they all were unique. They all brought something of their own reckoning to the table.
Yeah.
You, me, everybody that appreciates music, we're better for having them, the women in rock. And hey, 2 thumbs up to you, ladies.
Man, absolutely. And I'll just sign off on Stevie Nicks by saying, man, you referred to her as a poet.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, there's songs that she sings that she wrote that will bring tears to my eyes quickly.
Every time. And so I'll say, even and Christine McVie is equally as talented but she was maybe, she wasn't front and center because you're talking about shedding a tear. If you can listen to Songbird without getting a little misty-eyed, you a cold, dead son of a bitch.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you, man. All right, man. So I'm going to move us along here because that was a great conversation. But I do want to get into our new music minute for a second.
We're going to turn it over to you tonight for that one because you've got one you want to bring up.
I do, but at the same time, Toddy, I want to. There was kind of a path with how I got here. I'm going to be experimenting with my moving stuff out of the way so I can see.
Oh, where the hell did I go? And while we are floating through this, I've left out one more that's, I'm going to say, current lady of rock, who also is from Alabama. And that's Brittany Howard of the Alabama
Shakes. I was thinking about her earlier when you were talking and the way you were describing the other woman from.
And both of them are, I'm just going to say, very similar in a lot of ways. They have a, So kudos to you, Brittany. Keep belting it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she damn.
Sound and Color record is probably one of the better albums of the last freaking 20 years. And for those that may not know it, put it on and listen to a tune called Shoegaze. Holy shit.
Okay, so let's just pretend that that screen share happened flawlessly and that you can all see my screen now. This is a screenshot of something called the music map. And if you're like me and Todd, and you're just constantly hungry for music that you might like, there are a lot of algorithms out there. And I know that sounds like a bad word, but it's not. When it comes to your music, it is an amazing way to realize if I liked this band or I liked this song, I'm probably going to like this other band or this other song. So the music map, and I'll show it to you in a different view in a minute, but I sent Toddy a message and I said, man, the last 6 months, my listening has really been encompassed by this. Now, how did I get here? I started by doing what I do a lot of times. This gets updated about once every 3 or 4 months. But that was to search. And I searched on Cracker because Cracker is sort of ground central for a lot of things for DanO. So when Cracker came up, this thing called the Ike Reilly Assassination, man, that was not something I'd ever heard of, much less listened to. Now, yeah, the Bottle Rockets, Warren Zevon, Pete Droge, who I'll talk about, a few episodes down the road, because another one that just fills those voids that needs filling. But Ike Reilly Assassination, they're really supposed to be close to Cracker on the music map. Apparently, I listened to them, and it took me a few times. I tell Toddy, I have to make friends with the music I'm listening to. It probably doesn't come to me the first time I hear it that, oh my gosh, this is going to affect a lot of years ahead of me. If I think I love it the first time I hear it, I'm probably going to be tired of it in about 4 weeks. But these kinds of songs that I started hearing, and as I became friends with them, were just, man, taking me on a journey I hadn't been on in a long time. And, pardon me while I have a drink of water. The journey that I'm talking about is that place where you find a song, you find an album, and you feel good about it, and then you start backtracking because, man, if I like that album, maybe I would like this album. And I've done that with Ike Reilly. He's a dude from Illinois that started a band in, late 90s but went through 2001, I think was his first real solo effort, and eventually started recording with a band that he called the Ike Reilly Assassination. Okay, you can form your own opinion about where that came from. But what drew me in initially was the depth of the lyrics. This was not somebody that was writing about a dog getting run over by a pickup truck on a dirt road. This was somebody who was telling a very complex story with some very real characters, and it was structured in such a way. The entire song, the music, the arrangement, structured in such a way that was unique, and it just caught my attention. And at the same time, somewhere in there was something that was coexistent with Cracker. And I don't know how the algorithm did that, but it did that. So my point here is, if you like anything like what I would call alternative country, i.e. Cracker, I don't know how many bands to compare to that. Toddy, if you've got a suggestion, please throw it in. But, Cracker, the Bottle Rockets, and now I know the Ike Reilly Assassination. But, then I got to wondering, so, wow, here's some albums by Ike Reilly and the Ike Reilly Assassination coming out of a break here. So, let me see. I got one other thing. This music now. Again, if Toddy and I can do nothing else for you other than offer you opinions, we can offer you information and access to information. And this is one of the most important that I can imagine, this music map. It's a website, music-map.com. You put in the name of an artist, you hit search, and it does this amazing thing.
Well, and then two, if like the bands we talk about in the New Music Minute, and then this algorithm here, if it turns just one person on to one new band, the job was good. I mean,
exactly.
We've got to keep striving to find good music.
Yeah, and that's what and that's why I'm offering this, Toddy, is because you do have to keep striving. And this is the tool that will help you with it. I promise you. And I don't get any money from these people. I promise you that too. But at the same time, man, if you like a band, check out what other bands you might like. And like me, you might be surprised that as astute as you thought, as astute as you thought you might be, and what's out there, you were missing something.
Well, and I've said it since we've started this little endeavor. The thing that this has forced me to do is to look. I was convinced everything out there was shit. I ain't looked yet, but I was wrong. So just like, Ike Reilly Assassination, you turned me on to them, and like, holy shit, this is great. And so if somebody, whether we talk about J.J. Graham, Mofro, or whomever, Ike Reilly, whatever we may point to, go, don't listen. If you don't like it, fine, but you might. Shit, you'll never know if you don't give it a listen.
I do not have control.
Well, I never have. So before we go, I've got one more band that I need to mention.
Just one more.
This is all females. And my apologies to those in the heavy metal genre. There is an all-female metal band called Drain that is, I'll put them up against Pantera, Slayer, Metallica, Mega, any of these 5 girls are freaking badass. Now, might not be your cup of tea musically, that's fine, but
2 different questions.
There you go. They rock. And you talking about attitude. These 5 girls, women, whatever you want to call them, they've got some attitude, and they are, it is in your face. Now,
we rock and roll shit.
And so to Drain, let me give you one of those. Now, we started with I pointed out, yeah, one of the, I thought founders of the women in Rockville was from Troy, Alabama, and that Big Mama Thornton. We're going to close with, there's one out there today who's from where? Athens, Decatur, somewhere up there. Brittany Howard with the Alabama Shake.
Alabama Shake.
And the similarities between those two, it's quite intriguing.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'll pay my shame when we log off here, man. But damn, that should have been one automatic mention.
Damn right. Alabama's well represented on the music spectrum, man. No doubt.
Isn't that the craziest thing? Not craziest, coolest thing, though, Tony, is that, we talked a couple of podcasts ago about the fact that when you start tracing genres of music and everything goes back to Africa and it comes into the blues and then it comes into the South, whether it's Louisiana or Mississippi or Carolina, but it was really from the South that all this music not only evolved, it migrated. When you think about what happened, Tennessee, how much game-changing music has come out of Tennessee, whether you're talking about the eastern end or the western end, and they're very different. I get it. The South has just been such a critical breeding ground for the growth, the evolution, the development of music as we know it today. And whether it's Memphis or Nashville or the Appalachian Mountains where you're hearing bluegrass.
Or the Delta.
Or the Delta. It's all the South, and it's the epicenter of where this originated. And that's amazing to think that not only do we live here, we grew up here.
Yeah.
Music as a passion. Wow. Who would have thought that two guys growing up in southeast Alabama would develop a love for music, given what I just described as the southern U.S. influence on music.
But damn, weren't we lucky?
Yes, we were.
Absolutely. So, well, I think that's going to wrap us up for tonight, brother. Yeah, this has been good, and, I'm sure there's probably some well-deserving women of rock that we did not mention.
There will always be.
My apologies for those that we may not have, because, we didn't have enough time maybe to get to them all. I would just leave it at that. So, Daddy-O, I've enjoyed it. Have a good evening, and look forward to doing it next time, man.
I've enjoyed it too, man. See you, Tiny.
All right. Later, man.